Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! My mother lives in South America and I live in the UK. I've lived here for almost 15 years and I married here and had 2 children. When I first got pregnant, I begged my mom to come and stay with me for a couple of weeks as I was going to give birth to my first child and her first grandchild. We'd pay for her ticket, of course, but she said it wasn't her problem that I decided to have a baby on the other side of the world and she couldn't come anyway because she had work and studies. I sadly had a miscarriage last month and almost died from complications. Hemorrhaged severely, went into cardiac arrest, and had to undergo emergency surgery to save my life. I was telling a friend from church about it later and how after a scary situation in life, even as a grown-up, I still wished for a mommy cuddle. My friend called me a couple of days later and very kindly said she and her husband would like to pay for a ticket for my mom to come so we could spend the holidays together. I called my mom, who told me her passport was expired and a new one will only be ready by mid-January. Oh, that kinda sucks, I thought, but I guess I can wait a bit more. But then she told me that she can only come in February, after my sister's graduation. At this point, I became so upset. I've lived here 15 years, and not once did anyone bother to come and visit me. It is always my husband and I pay in to go and see them at least once a year. They have always had each other for events like these. My parents were there for my sister's marriages, first births, holidays, when they are ill or going through hard times. I haven't had that and dealt with every difficult situation with only my husband by my side. I told her not to bother anymore and cancelled her ticket. Even almost dying is still not enough to get her to leave things for a while and come stay with her eldest daughter for a few weeks. I'll spend the holidays with the only people who seem to care about me, my children and my husband. Am I in the wrong? Guess I needed to vent a little. And now for some comments. You're not in the wrong. There is very clear favoritism judging by how they treat your sister versus how they treated you. You have not seen them for nearly 15 years, and you are simply showing them the same amount of contact they showed you. You're not in the wrong. Yes, you chose to move, but this is kind of a classic if they want to, they would situation, especially considering you've offered to pay for her to come see you. I'm sorry you can't get that comfort you want and for your recent experience. Hey, listen, as a fellow expat, I know it's really hard. I've had family or friends from home visit me a grand total of 3 times in 10 years. And sometimes I get bitter about it, but I have to remind myself that I made the choice to move away and remind myself of why that was the right choice for me. Doesn't mean I don't miss people and wish more would make the effort on my behalf, but it's the life I chose, and I've made a new family here. I can't say you're in the wrong here, but I will say you may just have to make the best of the status quo. So my husband and I, 20 years old, have been married for 6 months, but have been together for 4 years. We own a 2-bedroom home. He works at an AC company, and I'm unable to currently work because of my morning sickness and how big I'm carrying. We're financially stable enough. When we told his mother, she was furious. She first accused me of lying and demanded that I show proof. I brought her to a doctor appointment with me, because she told me my ultrasound photos could have been fake. She then told my husband that he was making a big mistake by getting me pregnant and tried to convince him I was trapping him. He proposed before I had even become pregnant. She tried convincing us abortion was the only option because of our financial status, and tried convincing my husband I was using him for money. I have always worked. This is only temporary unemployment. She sends my husband crazy scenarios she comes up with on ways he can leave me and the baby behind and start a new life. He doesn't listen, of course, but he loves her way too much to block her. He's cried about it several times to me. She sends my husband a text about how horrible I am and that he's made a huge mistake. He's the only boy out of 3 kids, so she has this weird thing against me. We invited her to our baby shower, and she refused to come and sent me a whole essay on how self-centered it is to receive gifts that I'm supposed to provide. My husband and I have been thinking about not telling her when the baby is born, and if she finds out, just not letting her meet her. I talked to one of my sisters-in-law that I'm really close with and trust she won't say anything, and she told me that it would be so messed up to withhold the first grandchild and that her mother would never let it go. I don't think it would be, especially with her acting this way throughout the whole pregnancy. Would I be in the wrong? You wouldn't be in the wrong. After everything your mother-in-law has said and done, I'd be surprised even if she wanted to see the baby. It's your kid, and no one has any right to them more than you. Sounds like your sister-in-law doesn't really see the whole picture here. You're not in the wrong. I want to point out something about what your sister-in-law said. You don't withhold a person. You withhold a possession. A first grandchild is not a first edition book or a timeshare condo. Your husband should do some reading or therapy. I suggest starting with Toxic Parents by Susan Forward, which is widely available. And both of you should consider the welfare of the baby before everything else. Also, if your husband feels upset about opening a book entitled Toxic Parents in an attempt to understand his mother and his own feelings, please pass on these questions from me. Which is better, a supportive relationship or a high-demand relationship? Which type of relationship has his mother demonstrated by her words and actions? You owe it to your child to give her a mother with healthy boundaries. Family means nothing when the dynamics are cruel, destructive, and disrespectful. It is quite common to have issues or dislike a mother-in-law and vice versa, but in your case, it is extreme. Do not let this monster near your baby. Make your husband deal with it if she asks or if there is fallout, because he needs to step up more. He should have zero tolerance when it comes to ensuring his wife and mother of his child is respected and treated with a minimum of decency. You are a family of 2 and soon to be 3. Congratulations! And please make sure you create a space where your newborn and you are surrounded by love and support and well wishes. No need to tolerate anything else. For context, I, 17 female, gave birth at a birth center with a midwife, so I gotta go home about 4 hours after giving birth. Since we don't live together, my boyfriend, 18 male, stayed with me for the first 2 weeks. Since we don't live together, he wanted more time for his family to see the baby without other guests being there. I had a 23-hour labor and a non-medicated childbirth and needed stitches. I bruised my tailbone too. The day after I gave birth, he asked me to go over to his house so that his parents could have longer time with the baby. I agreed even though I really didn't want to. But because he really wanted it, and I was too tired to speak up, we went over and I really couldn't handle it. I wanted to go home almost immediately, and didn't say much to his parents. I was still in a nightgown because wearing shorts was too painful with my stitches and I was bleeding heavily. I was too embarrassed to use their bathroom because of the bleeding. Sitting on their couch hurt too. I made my boyfriend cut the visit short because I just couldn't handle it. He was disappointed because we only spent about 2 hours there, and his younger brother was supposed to see the baby and now couldn't because we were leaving before he got home. My boyfriend was upset that he disappointed his brother. When we got to the car, I just started crying. He got mad. I can't just have a couple of hours with my family. Then he got mad because I wouldn't tell him what was wrong at first. I was in the process of crying. Before we started driving, all I said was, "It hurts." On the drive home, I did explain why I was upset. He didn't apologize at first, but he did help me to bed and took care of me so that I could rest. My mom was called to him because I vented to her and this confused him. The next day, we were supposed to go back over there so that more family could visit. His mom ordered catering and it was going to be at least 15 people. I made him cancel this as I had no intention of leaving. He was upset and I told him his family can always visit the house just like his parents did when we first brought the baby home. He told me how upset his mom was, and frankly, I did not want to hear it. A few days later, his parents commented about how disappointed his brother was that he couldn't see the baby that day. And my boyfriend said how bad he felt. That night, I wrote all my feelings down and let him read it, because that's the best way for me to communicate without yelling. His first response was that some of the things I had written weren't really fair, and he explained why. We had a conversation where he apologized and made it seem like he felt bad, but I can't believe him. It upsets me that he even asked. It upset me that he got upset at me. His parents commented that they thought I'd be more talkative during the first visit. I resent him and his family now, because they are either very ignorant or very insensitive. Was he right to be mad? Did I overreact? Should I have followed through? And now for some comments. You're not in the wrong at all. You just gave birth, had a 23-hour-long labor and are recovering. And he and his family expect you to be going around to parties and gatherings just like that? That's ridiculous. And quite frankly, maybe he doesn't understand because he's not the one who just gave birth, but that sounds exhausting and painful. Do not let anyone make you feel bad for wanting your time to rest and recover. Definitely you're not in the wrong. Giving birth takes a toll on the body, and dragging you around to show the baby and meet 15 people on a full-blown catered party only 3 days after is madness. My wife stayed in bed the first 4 days, only got out for the bathroom, brought her dinner on bed, just our parents and siblings visited, as well as her best friend, that's it. Dragging you over to his parents while you were still actively bleeding and only in a nightgown? You should be mad at everybody. His parents for organizing this thing, him for pressuring you and whining about his brother. He can visit you and the baby on your terms, as well as your own parents. They should have stood up for you and stopped this insanity. Oh honey, you're not in the wrong. You just had a baby. You shouldn't be doing anything other than eating, sleeping, peeing very carefully, and loving on that baby. Any visits anywhere can wait a few weeks, even if you were 30 and married and owned your own home. Anyone who thought that hosting a party for 15 people to meet a fresh out of the womb baby would be way overstepping. Unless your boyfriend's mom never gave birth. I can't believe she would think anyone would feel up to that so soon after childbirth. Take time to focus on that baby and your physical recovery. Your boyfriend should be putting you and his new baby first, but he's putting his parents first instead. It's not worth your energy to fight with him, so if he can't be loving and respectful right now, it's probably best that he not be around. I'm 22 and Kat is 25. My sister Kat married her husband Mark when she was 21. My interactions with Mark were always kind, respectful, and it's obvious they loved each other. He was a bit of a negative influence on her though. And because of this, Kat, Mark, and our parents did not get along that well. I will be the first one to say that my parents were pretty strict growing up, but it was never anything that serious, and they always looked out for our best interests. Kat always used this opportunity to go low contact with our parents, but me and her kept in touch. Mark passed away recently, and the funeral is next week. It is a private funeral, so only the people invited can come. Kat invited me and I said I will be there. I was talking to mom and she mentioned that Kat hadn't invited them to Mark's funeral. And they are hurt, but they are also worried about her. I was surprised. And I called Kat later. She said she didn't want mom and dad there. And I replied that they just wanted to look out for her. Kat got pretty mad at me. So I replied, I understand she's in a lot of grief right now. But if she's going to try to break our family apart, I unfortunately won't be attending. Kat said, I was picking sides and she doesn't want me there anyway, especially if I'm going to be like that. She didn't reply to my text afterwards. I'm just sort of caught in the middle, but Kat's angry with me. And now for some comments. You are in the wrong. You don't say in what way Mark was a negative influence on your sister, but reading between the lines it sounds like your parents were more strict and interfering than your sister deemed reasonable, and she and her husband had different boundaries. She had every right to not include people who she didn't feel were supportive of her and her marriage. And you had every right to refuse to go when she didn't invite your parents, but that doesn't make you in the wrong for refusing to go. You are in the wrong. I read your comment. Mark's alleged bad influences were giving Kat the courage to change the major she wanted and to resume playing the violin. In other words, he was helping her become her own person instead of being the perfect submissive child your parents wanted her to be. These are the people you're choosing over your grieving sister. Kat just lost her husband. Her parents do not respect any decisions she makes that differ from their expectations, and now you've let her down. My heart hurts for her. I come from a broken home, so we have our Christmas with mom's side the first weekend of December. I, 44 male, hosted. Usually my sister and I switch off host duties. My sister has two daughters who are incredibly picky eaters at 18 and 15 years old. My sister would come to family parties with a box of pasta and a bag of frozen chicken tenders that she will make for her daughters. I want to know if I'm a jerk for what I did here. I knew that was her drill with them, but I've always found it to be very annoying, especially when I'm trying to cook and she's taking up space making the pasta and chicken tenders. This year I told my wife we will not be letting my sister in the kitchen this year, and the girls will have the choice of eating what I prepared or not eating. My sister accused me of being a cynic and getting joy from watching the girls be uncomfortable. I told her they are old enough to eat like adults. Also, the food I make is pretty standard. I do a filet roast, barbecue ribs, cheesy potatoes, stuffed artichoke, breaded cauliflower, ratatouille, and a salad. Certainly some of these must be foods that an 18 and 15-year-old should be able to eat. Well, the girls sat and ate bread and butter while telling me that my food looks gross. I looked to my sister to calm them down, but they told me I deserved this and it's not their fault for being picky eaters. I know I could have just let my sister do her thing, but it was the principle of the situation. I'm not sure if I was being a bitty jerk here or if I had a legitimate reason to be upset. Edit. There are no medical conditions or food allergies. I made it clear to my sister in advance that I would not be allowing this, and she decided not to listen. And I did not anticipate this blow-up. I am willing to compromise. If the girls really won't try new things, my sister can make their food at home and bring it. And now for some comments. You're not in the wrong. They are 18 and 15, not little kids. They can be picky, you don't have to accommodate that. It's very annoying to have someone come into the kitchen and take up space when you're cooking a big meal. You're not in the wrong. At 15 and 18, they should be able to eat more than just pasta and chicken tenders. Per OP's comments, there is no allergy or intolerance. They are just picky. And rude. Who sits at a table and talks about how gross the food looks. Cooking for a family holiday can be so stressful. Timing everything just right and making sure you have the space to cook everything. Adding in another meal just because they are picky? Nope. OB does not have to do that. You're not in the wrong. You told your sister ahead of time that you would not allow her to use your kitchen. If she was that concerned, she could have declined your invite or fed her kids before showing up. Her kids being rude was uncalled for. Thank you for watching and see you next time.